From Sigma Woman, this is the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm your host, Clara McKay, your aligned business coach and advocate for all things showing up for your vision. This is a no BS space for brave-hearted women who are actually craving change. I'm dedicated to bringing women's visions into reality, equipping women with all they need to build an abundant future, and shutting down all of the ways that you keep yourself small. Here, we're all about a women-centered approach, non-negotiable value alignment, and making bank without compromising your well-being. Each week, you're already one step closer to your most aligned and abundant future. This week, we're talking about planning your 2025 in business. And this episode is coming out in October or November. So if you're not used to planning 12 months ahead, that might freak you out a little bit. It shouldn't. And I'm going to go through a couple of pointers and a couple of free and available offers that are going to assist you through this process. One of those free offers is a yearly business review workbook. Even if you did it last year, it's worth checking it out again because all of those prompts in it are relevant and they're really worth checking in on each year to just make sure that you're staying on track. People who've done that workbook have given me really great feedback, and it's just a resource. Even if you're beginning to start thinking about planning 2025, it's got some really good prompts in there that are going to make sure that you go into that planning process with the best possible kind of ideas and concepts and frameworks. So, why do you need to plan long term? If you've never planned long term and you say plan your business weekly or daily, which is a little bit scary, you probably won't understand the benefits in doing things in a more long term way. I want to talk about why you need to, and then I'm going to talk about what happens when you do, when you start. Because if this is new to you, please don't freak out and back away now. I'm going to give you some nourishment on this quest. If you want to get proper sales, you need to generate enough interest in your offers in order to allow that to happen. And most of the time, if people come to me and they say that they're not making enough sales, they're literally just not marketing their offer enough or for enough time in the lead up to selling it or launching it or opening it. So I suggest that you don't launch anything more than 4 things in a year. So one thing per quarter to actually give your audience enough time to learn about that offer, be reminded of that offer, and to start considering it. If you are new to this and it's the first time you've ever operated business like this, from the statistics and the experience that I had with my clients, I think it's actually better to go into that first year of doing this with just 3 things in the year, because as you're going through it, obviously it's new to you, so you'll be slower at it, which you're meant to be. That's not a problem. You will notice like the problems will arise during it and you'll get those learning curves. So giving yourself that room to move and a bit of a buffer is going to save you from getting stressed and then throwing the towel in on this new approach to your business. Now, if that kind of freaks you out a little bit, because you're like, oh my God, 3 things in a year? Yes. And this is how we start developing a business long term and also developing in our business the ability to project our finances and our income longer term. So what I mean by that is knowing how much money you're going to make in September, knowing how much money you're going to make in October, knowing all the way to how much money you're going to make in January next year. And this is one of the ways that we get there. If we know that we're launching 3 or 4 things in the year and we've got maybe 10 other goals that we want to do, or maybe like new strategies or new approaches, or maybe we want to get some new branding or something done, we then can have the space to actually plot that work out through the year and be much more likely to get it done than trying to kind of juggle everything and do everything all the time throughout the year. Now, I will say, full transparency, this is how I run my business. I launch about 4 things a year, and then I'll have 1 or 2 like really tiny little fun things that allow myself the space. If I get the whim to do something, then I can. This year it was my solstice visioning circle, and that was really fun, and it did produce results, but it was more so just for me to connect with my community and have a nice time. And also, in the nature of full transparency, even though I do plot things in this way, there are still things from the last year that I have not yet completed last year or this year that is still on my list to complete, because even myself, I don't have even enough time to do all of the things that need to be done, just launching 4 things a year. Okay. And I'm definitely not trying to sound like arrogant or anything like that. But if we looked at 40 businesses, and I've been told this by multiple coaches and corporate mentors, I'm in the top like fifth percentile in terms of organization, right? And that's honestly probably because of my astrology, probably because of my human design. I love organization. It makes me feel calm. It makes me feel relaxed. It's very natural to me. So if you're someone who doesn't have those things in your astrology and it's not natural to you and you're not organized, imagine how much you're struggling to fit all the things in that need to be fitted in when someone who's really organized is struggling with that. Yeah. When you plan long term, you are able to know exactly what you're working on, also work on things in a little bit more of a calm and grounded way so that if problems arise, it doesn't freak you out, doesn't knock you off course, and you have the space to manage things or address things. When you do start planning long term, you tend to see better results. You tend to make more sales. You tend to feel calmer. You tend to feel more grounded. And then all of those things together have a really beautiful flow and effect to your confidence, self worth, all of that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to your business. Because as you know, confidence comes from knowing that you can do something and that you can achieve it and complete it and seeing it through all the way. And if you don't have a plan, which tell me if I'm wrong, probably leads to you stopping and starting a lot of different projects and not really ever getting that beautiful dopamine hit of actually checking things off. All of that kind of self confidence sabotaging loop goes, it just leaves the building. And one thing else that I've noticed with operating in this more long term planning way is my creativity. Being a very creative person, I get a lot of ideas all the time. A lot of them are pretty good ideas. But if I was to, which I used to do in the first 2 years of my business, drop all my plans, jump on the new idea and launch that or start that or make that or do that, I then feel really disrupted, and my audience doesn't have enough time to even suss out what that offer is, let alone buy it. And then they don't buy it as much. And then I feel like, oh, this hasn't worked. There must be a problem with it. And then, of course, if things aren't working all the time, then that's going to have a negative flow and effect to your self esteem and your self confidence. Whereas if you actually give things enough time, and you start to see those results. You start to go, oh, wow, I can do this. My business is working. My business is successful. So, those are just like really a couple of very top level things that happen when you plan at least a year in advance. I also think I could argue that the products, the strategy, and any marketing that you do is probably going to be a higher quality because you're just going to give yourself more time to properly ideate and produce it. So, it's going to end up being better. If you were like, oh, I want to plan a year in advance, I've never done this before, this sounds like it would really support me, and I don't know where to start, I am offering one-off coaching calls, which are a 45-minute planning session where we will go through and map out the majority of your 2024, at least kind of the top level things. We're not going to be able to map out what you do every single day for 365 days in a 45-minute session, but we're going to get the top level things so that you know at least each month what you need to be focusing on. If you're like, oh, I do need the support, but a one-to-one session is a little bit out of my budget, I have two super affordable tools that are under 25 Australian dollars. I have a yearly Notion business planner and I have a monthly Notion business planner. And if you use those two things in conjunction, you will be able to pretty much do what we would do in a planning session. You just won't obviously have my input. So those tools are there. They're really affordable. You can download them and start using them straight away. And the beautiful thing with those tools is that you can just duplicate them every month, every year, and you don't have to buy another one. You could use this for the next 10 years and it's going to support you in your business. Check those out in the show notes. And I would love to see if you're looking to do a planning session with me. If you can't tell, Getting to share this time with you is something that I find truly sacred. I know that you're busy, but if you've taken anything away from our time spent together today, could you extend the love and share this episode with a friend, your community, or on your socials? Tag me so that I can see it and I can share it too. Or when you have a spare moment, leave the podcast for review. These things cost you nothing and will mean so much to me. Let's get this resource into the hands of more women visionaries and help us collectively move towards our most aligned way of being and doing business together.